My name is Michael Sendrich, Private First Class and Lance Corporal, and I was a member of the United States Marine Corps. I served during the Vietnam era. I joined the military in 1965 at the ripe old age of 18 years. It was a difficult period of time. I had finished my second semester of college. A number of my friends were being drafted, and my thoughts were that I would prefer to serve with people that wanted to be in the military rather than be drafted. Not that I have anything against draftees. I joined the Marine Corps because my mother's twin brother was one of the heroes of World War II, fought in some of the epic battles in the Pacific, and I admired him greatly growing up, and that's why I joined the Marine Corps. Parris Island had a reputation of being very difficult, and that was my first duty station in South Carolina. The minute the drill instructor stepped on the bus, you knew you were owned by somebody else, so it was a concern at the beginning. I was anxious. I can't say I wasn't anxious, because anything when you're going into the unknown, it's I would classify it as similar to playing sports. If you went through intensive training or trying out for a sports team, you know what the anxiety is when you're beginning the training, and you're a combat soldier. You prepare for war, you prepare for the unknown, you prepare to help people. They break you down physically and mentally, and then they build you back up. I went to a school in Panama called the School of the Americas, which was a notorious school for spies, and it had the nickname the School of the Assassins. And it was run by the United States Army, and I was one of the few Marines that was trained in the Panama School of the Americas. Approximately 25,000 American troops were transported to the Dominican to help secure peace in that country, and I was part of that deployment. They don't say, Mike Sendrich, you're going to the Dominican Republic to help in a political unrest, or you're going here to political unrest. You find out later on when you read about history. You just do what you're told when you're a non-commissioned officer in any branch of the service. We were part of the first Americans to get involved in what they call a vertical envelopment, and vertical envelopment is where we were transported in by helicopter and repelled out of helicopters on a rope. And duty station I was at, we had a tower that was 110 feet high. You climbed the tower, you repelled down the rope, and that was part of your training, and you did it periodically for several weeks, if not months. We were on a patrol mission in Panama along the Chagres River. It was during the rainy season, and one of the members of the team, I don't know what he did. He either stepped, lost his balance, but he went under. He went under the water and he panicked, and he dropped his rifle. So this is a mortal sin. I had some, and he was senior to me, and I had some concern, and I was a good swimmer from the time I was in grammar school. So I dove for about 20 minutes until I found that rifle, and I handed it back to him because it was, this is something you could never explain to a superior officer. And that's the camaraderie that we had in the military, that you take care of one another. It's well documented in the history books that servicemen and women that were deployed in the 60s weren't very socially acceptable to a lot of people. There was no grandiose homecoming. I took a train from somewhere in Camp Lejeune to New York City. I got off the train in the dead of winter, and it was the last time I ever came home in uniform because I was vilified. There were so many people against the war, and my feeling was that this is, again, I'm 18, 19, 20 years old. This is something that our political leaders asked us to do. We thought the country was behind it. We believed they had a good reason for drafting people and being involved in some of these missions around the world. In fact, one resume I submitted for a job, they told me to leave out the part that I served in the military. I went with a good friend who was a Navy veteran to a VFW. I didn't join there, but I was part of that program for a while. And I joined this post, Moses Taylor Post 136 here in Mount Kisco. And I joined because I felt that I wanted to do something for the veterans that suffered. In part of my career, my later career, later on in life, I had firsthand knowledge of how the veterans were being treated in some of the hospitals and some of the housing that was going on. And I thought I could make a difference for the camaraderie, and also, that I was still loyal to the country, and I decided to join or transfer up to this post because it was closer to home. Well, I'd like to see a larger membership. A number of my contemporaries that served during the period of time I served, they're not as active in joining any organization. Some because of the way they were treated initially after leaving the service, didn't want to ever put a uniform on again. But I just felt that I could do what I had to do and just put that aside and still put the American Legion uniform on and let the community and my family know that I was a patriot. Well, I'm just part of an organization, a small part of an organization that is keeping the history of the American serviceman at the forefront and making sure that the American serviceman is not forgotten. With this American Legion post, it either happens here, ends here, or is inspired here.
Roger L. Guest, Chief Warrant Officer for United States Coast Guard Reserve. I was at the Bedford Village Green with some friends doing the caroling for Christmas, after which we went over to my friend's house. My friend was in the Coast Guard Academy at the time. I'm sitting on the couch and all of a sudden his mother plops a whole pile of stuff on my lap so I could join the Coast Guard. I tried to have fun in boot camp, and, well, I caught a little hell for it, but I had fun. I was standing watch on what was called the quarterdeck, and they came up to me and started putting me through the ringer. At one point, they had me doing what we called warp speed jumping jacks. Started off with that, then they had me doing sit-ups, and one of the company commanders comes over and puts his foot on me. The guy wasn't a small guy, he was a big guy. And I just looked up at him and I smiled because of a thought that my grandfather had sent me in a letter. And I thought it was funny, but company commander didn't. Eventually I ended up doing the worm around the quarterdeck. That was fun. I started off as a port security man. in the Captain of Port office in New Haven, Connecticut. At that time, it was a group captain of the port. Most of my experience at that time was taking care of pollution, inspecting vessels, and oil facilities. A lot of times we would have to go out into the middle of Long Island Sound to do a boarding, which was kind of interesting when the boat is going up and down, and you have to jump onto the bosun's ladder, which is up the side of a vessel. Plus you got a backpack on with all your books and everything to do an inspection. Most of my time I was stationed up in New Haven, Connecticut. My last 5 years I was stationed down in Wake, North Carolina. Basically I joined the American Legion because my father had been a member. He passed away and I figured in honor of him I would join the post. Here is a 5'7", 145-pound Marine who was an MP. So I couldn't figure that out. It basically, as I always tell other veterans, it's veterans helping veterans. There are also other benefits that the Legion provides. Right now, since I'm retired, it keeps me very busy, since I am now the commander of the post. Well, the American Legion basically was started after World War I. The first post, in fact, was created over in France. We became a post in 1919, but we didn't get our building until 1921 or so. The post is named after an individual, Moses Taylor Jr., who was a lieutenant who was killed over in Germany. I think everybody knows it's horrible. I don't think they realize that those who go to war really don't like it either. You know, they're going there because they're told to go there by their superiors and by the politicians. And then back, like in Vietnam, they were drafted, but they still did what they had to do while they were over there. So people shouldn't take it out on the poor individual soldiers that come back.
Straight out. Left. Left. Column right. Hard. Left. 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 Right. Left. Step it out.
Good morning, everybody. For our Veterans Day ceremony. Okay, my name is Roger Guest. I'm the commander of Moses Taylor American Legion Post 136 here in Mount Kisco. Right now, I'd like to have the chaplain come forward for the invocation.
Uncover. Most gracious Father of us all, from whom comes all help and blessings, look upon us gathered here in thy favor. Direct us in all our actions. Grant us vigilant hearts. Give us minds to know thee, diligence to seek thee, wisdom to find thee. Sanctify us with thy presence, bless us with thy might. Assist us with thy counsel, that all our endeavors may begin with thee, through thee, and may be happily ended. Amen.
My name is Constantino Prokopis, a 4-year veteran of the United States Navy during Korean wartime. We were in study hall. We were ready to graduate last year of school, and there were 3 of us that just got together, and we were sent down to the principal's office, being that he wanted to see us. And of course, he was an ex-Navy man. He just come out of the service. He was in the Pacific Wars, and he just said to us, join the Navy. I was sworn in on August 4th, 1947. I did 12 weeks of rigorous boot camp, and you're out there and you're learning how to march, how to drill, how to fire a gun, how to jump in a pool that's cold water. And I had to jump off a pool that was 50 feet high. I never swam in my life. So here we are, 50 feet up, and we're looking down and we're scared as could be, all of us. Once we dove into the water, we were just happy to hear you're accepted. Once you're accepted, it's all Navy. And you're thinking, what's going to be next? And you're scared. And if anyone says they were not scared, they were lying. Well, the following day we issued clothes, Navy uniforms, so forth, Navy equipment. Of course, none of the clothes fit. They were too big. I was a skinny kid. I think I weighed 130 pounds. So here I am up in Great Lakes, Illinois, not knowing a soul, 17 years old, and I miss my friends. However, you get over that quickly because they have you doing so many jobs. KP, you understand that one? That's peeling potatoes. They had no automatic potato peelers in those days, so you had to do them by hand. And everybody ate potatoes every day. I was transferred to the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and they were assigning me to submarine school. You have to go to Groton, Connecticut. You have to be a submariner. I said, I can't. I'm claustrophobic. You're going to be transferred to a ship in Boston Harbor, Massachusetts. That ship is a destroyer, USS James C. Owen. The ship was ordered to go to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba for maneuvers, exercises, battle situations. You learn how to shoot the big guns. And the big guns are called 5-inch 38s. They're like cannons, if you can picture a cannon. But very long, very powerful, and their mileage, as far as accuracy goes, is 13 miles with accuracy. And it will blow everything that's in its path away. You don't make mistakes at all. If you make a mistake, somebody dies. No one else can do our job. That's the only job we have. My age now is about 19 years old, and I'm saying I'm supposed to be discharged. I enlisted for 3 years, and it was September 23rd I was to be discharged, 1950. We have orders to proceed to an island. They called it an island, but it wasn't. It was called Korea, Korea. We have never heard of the country Korea. None of us. The captain of the ship has never heard of the country called Korea. We arrived on station in Korea, and we did a lot of damage in some of the harbors. I can name some of the harbors. We were at Incheon, invasion of Incheon, invasion of Sinampo, invasion of Samchak, Hungnam, North Korea, Wonsan Harbor, all the named battle places. And we were all over the place because destroyers can maneuver quickly, in and out. We can get out of harm's way in a hurry, because when they start firing back at you, they start hitting the ship. We were very fortunate no one ever got shot on our ship. However, one of the ensigns, brand new ensign, just out of the academy, was taking a nap. He was on duty all night, so he was taking a nap during the day. And a shell went right through the metal on the ship, and don't laugh, got hit in the rear end. See? It's a true story. Okay, we got back from Korea. They gave us celebrations. I was happy to see everyone. My mother thought I was playing games somewhere. I never told her the truth. She was just happy to have me home. And of course, I've got cooking. I had wonderful meals again. You know, Ma's cooking is the best. Now, my dad owned a restaurant in Mount Kisco. So I'm down at my father's restaurant, better cooked than my mother. So we always ate his food, but you can't tell my mother that. 2 years after discharge, I had met a nice girl, and we decided to get married. We built a nice house. We had 4 children every 2 years. And my wife took sick, and this is the sad part. 5 years later, she passed away at the age of 35. The Legion people all would come to our diner and eat all the time, our different officers and so forth. And they're begging me to join. I said, I don't have the time. Then finally, okay, when my wife died, I joined the Legion. So I've been a member of the Legion for 52 years. I was commander for 3 different terms. My cap says past commander now, but the original commander hat says commander on it. When you're commander, you're the top dog. You issue, you deliver, you're in charge of everyone in the American Legion. And you've got to do a good job, otherwise you'll be reminded to do a good job. I'm going to have to tell you the truth. We are an aging unit. We have 130 members left that are active. 15 to 16 members of us show up. I am a chaplain, by the way. I will say the prayers. The prayers will be very stern, on the money. And when you say amen, you say amen like you mean it. And they all join in and say amen. They mimic me. And this good bunch of people.
Also, to accept the simple truth that we do not all see things the same way. The great men and women, civilians as well as military, have fought and died to maintain the rights of man. Not all humans think alike, but that's okay, so long as they all grant others the same rights.
And one last thing, I want everybody to meet our newest member. I just know him as Eric. We put him in today.
My name is Eric Thompson. Rank was a PFC, Vietnam era. Current age actually is 72, and I was drafted. Back when I was growing up, there was a guy called John Wayne that we used to watch as war movies. So you get a little idea of a romanticized war until you're actually involved in it. It had a place called Whitehall Street in Manhattan. They send you a letter, and it was the big joke back in the day because it said, "Greetings, Uncle Sam needs you," or something like that, and then send you a token. The token's so you had no excuse not to go. So you went down there, they gave you your physical, and then you had another letter saying, "Show up at Whitehall at this time," and they put you on the bus and shipped you out. I'm not a screamer. So the first day of service, when they get you off the bus, you have to call out your name or where you're from or whatever, and I couldn't scream. So the drill sergeants at the day were rough. I don't know about today, but they were rough back then. So that had me put my head in the garbage can and say, "Here, sir," for the next 15 minutes, which was fun. Then I went to Fort Gordon for AIT, Advanced Infantry Training, but I wasn't in infantry. I actually scored high on communications. So I wound up going to communication school, being a radio teletype operator. When you trained for the MOS that I have, everything has to be committed to memory. You couldn't write anything down. All you learned was not on paper. You had to commit it to memory because it was cryptographic at the time, and that's a top secret communication. So you're not thinking about anything else but that. And then if you think about when I was in communications, we learned Morse code. Nowadays you'll have the digital phones and all that. Back then it was dits and dars. So you have that in your mind. So you're training with the crypto and the Morse code, your mind is not thinking anyplace else. Because this may save somebody's life. If you grew up in the Bronx where I grew up at, that was chaos. Actually, the military was easier. All you had to do was worry about the DI, the drill instructor, and keeping your bunk and your place strapped, as the term went, keeping everything nice. In the Bronx, you had to worry about violence, crime, guys, gangs. I was never in a gang as far as civilian life goes. Military is a different kind of gang, but I was never in the gang. So you had to dodge that. You had to dodge not being in the gang. You had to have the right amount of friends so you won't get into trouble. Military was easier, to me, my own personal experience. If I had to do it over, I'd do it again. I'd still go in the military. I'd still go defend the country. I have no issues with that. I have the issues with some of the individuals that were in the military. You would have a test for your rank. And I had a sergeant named Sergeant Reynolds, who was from Alabama. After I passed the test, I figured I'd get my stripes. Guys with lesser scores got their stripes because he was the sergeant in charge. I didn't get them. So I had attitude with him in the military. That's why I stayed at PFC the rest of the time. Because I'm giving it my all, and you're not judging me for the merits, or I passed the course. You're judging me because you don't like me for whatever reason. That was it. I was done. You have to understand the dynamics of the military back in that time, especially for African American. You had different spots where different groups of people hung out. And I hang out with guys from California who are Caucasian guys, because I didn't care. I was from New York, so I wasn't used to that type of separation. Born and raised in the Bronx, in Manhattan at the time, it was a lot of Irish in my neighborhood. So it didn't bother me, Irish and Italian, so it didn't bother me. But when I went to the military, now I realized that the subtle racism that was in it, but I didn't care. It didn't bother me. If you were my friend, you were my friend. I didn't care. It's how you look at people. You know, for the most part, we all the same. There's really no different. There was a guy from Tennessee. His name was Farmer. Can you believe it? And Farmer would come up to me when I was in Jackson. And he would say, "Thompson, I never met any black people, so I don't know if I can hate you." He was honest. We wound up being friends, but he was told by guys in the unit, "Don't hang out with these guys." And he didn't think that way. So that proves to me that those guys who felt that way had to be taught that. You're not born that way. Somebody has to tell you something. He was born in the hills. He told me he was in the hills of Tennessee. He didn't know anyone. So how can you hate something you don't know? And then he ran into coming to the military, and he runs into a guy like me. Lucky him. You came straight from the battlefield back to civilian life. There was really no separation as far as discussing what happened to you. Guys will actually come back from Vietnam with their jungle fatigues on. Put them on a plane, drop them in the States, you're out of the service, boom. Now, those guys had a lot of issues. However, because people were against the war, they were against us. You can't have it both ways. I'm sorry, but you can't have it both ways. You want to be a citizen of this country, whatever your color is, you want to be a citizen of this country, and this country has an issue with some other place, you don't go to Canada. You can protest all you want. That's why those guys died in the past, so you can protest. But don't dump on the guys that's going to protect your ass, excuse the expression, if something goes wrong. That's just my attitude. I've been aware of Legion for years. I've joined the national one in Albany off and on for the last couple of years. And then I moved up here and I saw, oh, there's a post right here. Okay, I'm going to go join. Year passed. Yeah, I'll get there. You know, another year. Yeah, I'll get there. So then the memorial came up and I said, you know what, I want to do that. So the morning of the memorial, I went down to join. I got pushed into service right away, but that's okay. That's what I went there for. What you miss coming back to civilian life was the camaraderie of the guys. No matter where you were from, if you were in that particular unit, they had your back. A military story is a military story, whether you fought or not. You have a common denominator, the service. So I figured, since the Legion was so close, and I've been off and on joining the Legion for years, I joined and the membership dies, and then I joined again, then it dies. So last time I joined lifetime membership. This way it doesn't die. Guys, exit in service, if you can, if you have issues, join a veterans group. Be around guys that are just out or been out for a while that can help you along if you have issues. If you have a strong family, rely on your family. Or as the saying goes, take a stroll through your mind sometimes. You'd be surprised at what you may find.
We think about all the times that we have called upon those of you who sit before us and those who have gone before. And if you stretch back all the way, the American Revolution, the War of 1812, the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, Spanish-American, World Wars I and II, Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf, and Afghanistan. America has been at war more than at peace. And all of us go about our lives with these freedoms that we so often take for granted. But these freedoms could not possibly be without all of you who sit before us and all who have gone before you. And so we gather today in our beautiful village, as we always do, 11/11 at 11. And this sentiment may seem so simple, but it is so sincerely heartfelt. We thank you all for your tremendous service, for your tremendous sacrifice. May God bless all of you.
My name is Peter Bambace. Don't tell anybody, but it's 97. And I was a private first class in the United States Air Force. I was shivering in my boots. Don't put that down, though. But I was a little nervous. I had never left home. I didn't know where the hell to go when I did, if I did leave. When I got to New York City, I didn't know there was elevators, the trains that fly up in the air, right? And I told my cousin who took me down, I said, what do they got, trains that fly in the air? Yeah, it was a big joke with the whole family, you know? I was interested in the Navy and ended up in the Air Force, but I'm pretty glad that I did. Well, actually I was drafted, but it was 1943, and I stayed in until February 1946. We got onto a train and went to Miami Beach and did basic training, which lasted a month. From there, they shipped us to Gulfport, Mississippi. And this is where we started to learn everything, if you could, about the plane. And the plane was a B-24, built out in California. So we had a pre-flight the airplane once a day. It's the starter. You have to engage the starter by revving the engine up at 1800 RPMs. Turn the switches on to each engine and keep it going until we got all the readings that they're all working. And then we would calm it down and then shut it off. If a plane ran into one bird or hit one prop, that plane came down, went to the sub depot and put a new propeller on it. Didn't take no chances. You know, you got to give those guys credit. They got some nerve. I couldn't go. I had to go, but I couldn't go. I never flew in one, a B-24. I never flew in a plane until after I got married. We went to Bermuda. Now, if you look out your window, you see that little spot down there, he says, that's Bermuda. There ain't no way we're going to land. They're good, these pilots. You got to give them credit. By that time, it was time to go to supper or chow time. And you talk about the food, chocolate milk. Did you ever see chocolate milk in the oranges for breakfast, cantaloupes and stuff like that. This is all new to us. You know, we never had anything like that. Good times, bad times. There's a number of bad times where a couple of boys got hurt. Plane was landing with one engine out. They were coming down, and instead of trying to keep the plane up, it made like a semicircle. I think it was the number 4 engine out. That was the furthest one on the wing, and it went towards the left. And I guess he couldn't bring it up. He hit this mountain to where we used to shoot, practice. Up till this day, we don't know how many got hurt or if they all lived. Well, no, the American Legion, just like one of the boys. I didn't know nothing about joining, especially when you left your hometown and came up here to Mount Kisco. When I joined, over 400 was in there. But right now, very, very low. It's maybe in the 50s or 60s. But you had things to do and help. Help is what they need. There's always somebody that's going to jump in, even strangers. On the Sundays we have pancakes, and we have outsiders that are not even in the Legion help to do all this stuff, and feed us. They come up and congratulate me. Some shake my hands. Some buy Why, you see, at a counter, they'll pay for your meal, but it's nice that they do that, you know, to see that somebody likes you, you know.
May God bless those who served our great country in the past, those who serve presently, and those who will serve in the future. And may God always bless America.
Ready. Aim. Fire. Aim. Fire. Aim. Fire. Present arms. Bugler, sound off. Salute.